You versus the guy she tells you not to worry about.
Long tan and hands. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Uneducation Station. And I am here with Zach.
Hello.
And we are the Uneducation Station, like I just said just a second ago. Zach, I said that already.
You didn't say who you are.
I'm Arthur Anuki. Now my name card pops up.
Q name card.
Q name card. Welcome back, Zach. Welcome back, everybody. You look. Show your shaker cup, Zach. I need everybody to see your watermelon shaker cup. Look at that thing.
Look at this thing.
Look at that thing.
It's actually a blender bottle for like protein shakes and such.
Right.
I decided I needed to be completely over caffeinated this morning, so here we are.
So when you use those things, it has the thing in it, right?
It has like a little
wisp thing,
yeah.
Whisk thing. So are you able to like blend things with milk, or is it just water?
With milk, yeah.
You can do it.
Yeah.
This is just like a very vigorous shaking.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't turn out necessarily like I could. Yeah, I guess that would work, but you couldn't necessarily make anything in high power. That would require high power, like a smoothie, for example.
Correct.
Okay, because when I make a protein shake, I go with a smoothie route.
Oh, okay.
I always gotta blend it because that was gross. Because I don't like it if it's not.
That's fair.
In my opinion, in my onion, because I do a bunch of, I throw bananas in there, peanut butter in there. You can't do that, obviously.
Bro, I can have peanut butter.
You can? Is it just hazelnut?
Hazelnut, pistachio nuts, cashews.
Oh. Good thing I only like hazelnut out of those three.
Yeah. I mean, it's so funny because whenever people know that I have a nut allergy, they kind of forget the details of it. And so they have like a Reese's peanut butter cup and they're like, they will go to offer me one and they're like, oh, you can't have these. And I'm like, actually, in fact, I can.
Actually, in fact.
Yeah, according to my calculations.
To be fair, nut allergy doesn't really specify. There's too many nuts. So you have to kind of have that, you know.
So I'm allergic to everything but peanuts, basically.
Gotcha. So the big ones, that's good.
Yeah.
The one that most things are probably going to have.
Correct.
Yeah, I would say so, probably.
Are you allergic to any foods?
I'm not allergic to any foods, at least that I know of course. But so far, I am not allergic to anything besides actually sunblock.
That is oddly inconvenient.
You would say that, but I don't get sunburned.
Oh yeah, that's right. You don't have like pasty white heritage like I do.
Yeah, well, I mean, some of my family, they still get sunblock. Or I'd say most of my family are sunblock. They still get sunburned.
Right.
I would say. But I just don't, because I don't get too. So when I go into the sun, Zach, for an extended period of time, I don't turn darker. But I would say my skin is not as dark as my own family's. Like there's a lot that are darker than I am.
Right.
And even though I go outside, or I don't leave my house, like I mentioned, Zach. It's classic. I don't leave my house.
Right.
But even when I do, and I did a lot, I don't really get much darker than this. So I've stayed like this. And when I go outside, I don't get necessarily red. I just turn more golden. And then after that, I'm just kind of normal. That being said, that doesn't protect me from the rays of the sun in general.
Right.
So that's the part that's inconvenient. I had nothing's happened, and I put on like lotion and stuff. I'm not quite sure. It's probably something in it. We haven't really necessarily checked it out because it's never been an inconvenience. But I am allergic to something like that. It makes me. It's not like I'll die.
Right.
I get a little rashes, like, you know.
Yeah.
And it's not fun.
You know, it's interesting because I never really used sunblock a whole lot. I mean, when I was a kid and I lived in Las Vegas, it was a little bit different, but
sure.
now that I've lived here for so long and like, you know, I've spent a lot of time in the sun, I don't really use it that much. The only thing that is a mild inconvenience is that I have to put sunblock on my tattoos because, you know, they're black. Right. So they will end up burning a lot easier.
They absorb the sunlight.
Right. They absorb the radiation of the sun. And so that's the only thing that has gotten a little bit annoying. And honestly, the only place where I really put sunblock on when I use it is on my tattoos and then like on the back of my neck because that's where
you get a lot there. Really bad there. But yeah. There's that. Yeah, no.
It's really fascinating because you never really think about like the things that your body just decides like, you don't need that. Like,
yeah, it's a big,
like cashew milk. My body was like, you're fine. I mean, I believe that I've been around for longer than cashew milk has been a thing. But it's it's one of those things where you never really understand the reason behind it, and unlike you with the sunscreen allergy where you just kind of get rashy gross redness, I get what is called anaphylactic shock, basically where my body freaks the fuck out and my throat starts to swell up and it ends up closing my airway, which of course
that's
bad news bears.
Right.
And so I take it a little bit more seriously. And I mean, there have been a handful of times where I've just kind of been like, well, I mean, if it's my time to go, it's my time to go, which is kind of fucked up.
Shit, yeah. Well, these cashews kind of go fucking hard, so it is what it is.
It's so funny because like I'll have situations like that and then I'll be fine. And then it's just the random, like, I went through a freaking coffee shop drive-through and I asked them to give me a surprise energy drink.
Oh.
Like a surprise flavor. And they gave me like chocolate macadamia nut fucking flavoring, which I had never heard of before.
I've never heard that before. Jeez Louise.
Yeah. And so I took a couple sips of it and before I left, I was like, hey, what's in this? And they're like, oh, we put chocolate macadamia nut in it. And I immediately handed it back to them. And I was like, I'm allergic to that. And, they were like freaking out. And I was trying to maintain my composure so I didn't freak the fuck out. And so they made me another drink, apologized profusely. And then I went back home. And, luckily, there's like a threshold almost to where like it gets a little bit dangerous because it kind of starts off with like my tongue getting a little tingly and like the back of my throat being a little like itchy scratchy.
Okay.
And that's kind of my indicator like, hey, you need to do something, otherwise you might die. And so by the time I got back to my house after this weird energy drink endeavor, I ended up taking Benadryl. Which is something that I can take that will kind of help my body process it.
Right.
And, I was fine. But there was one time, I don't know how we ended up going down this rabbit hole, but it's really funny.
Okay. Funny? Okay.
Well, funny, but also equal parts fucked up.
Okay. Well, it's you saying it, so okay. Yeah. That's fair.
Okay.
You made it out, so now you can laugh about it.
Yeah. Okay. And this was, like 10 years ago now, I think. So my brother, obviously, is not the best influence on my life choices, right? And, he and I were hanging out with my buddy Ben, and Kevin, my brother, was trying to convince me that I wasn't allergic to cashews. He was like, dude, you're not allergic to cashews. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. Like, you'll be fine. It's not a big deal. You're all good, homie. And I was like, that's not how that works. I have almost died on a number of different occasions eating the like pistachios, macadamia nuts, like hazelnuts. I've been down this block before and I have never seen anything positive come from it. And he was like, nah, you'll be fine.
You'll be fine. It's all good. It's just a mindset.
Yeah.
Just don't do it.
Just don't die. And so I inevitably caved to the peer pressure because I was 12 years old.
Yeah.
Ate the cashew. And my mom was being very responsible about the situation because like I went downstairs and I told my mom, I was like, hey, Kevin just basically shoved a cashew down my throat. What do I do? And she was like, well, let's just remain calm. If in the next 10 minutes, you start to feel the itchy, scratchy stuff, like, what it feels like. If you start feeling the symptoms of a reaction, then we'll go and get you checked out if you need to. And so basically I ended up spending the night in the hospital that night.
Cool. Oh man.
And not only that, both Kevin and Ben were there at the hospital, and they were just running around having a grand old time because they were unsupervised teenagers running amok in a hospital. And so after that point, for probably, I want to say like 4 years, my brother called me Cashew. And yeah, that was one of the closest times my brother has tried to kill me.
I see.
Yeah, that was a fun one. I say that sarcastically. I did not have a good time. There have been a bunch of stories. I feel like I could tell a bunch of stories.
Sure. But when you like, it's of course it's like really bad. But after a long time, when you're here and you're fine, you're able to look back at even like the worst things and laugh at it, right?
Yeah.
I feel like that's a good part of life where it's like you can kind of make light in something that was extremely dark. You know, and that's the fun part. That's why I enjoy things like maybe in the darker side of humor. Which, by the way, did you know about the Bo Burnham outtakes of Inside?
Yes,
dude, I was watching that last night. I didn't even know it existed. Well, it came out like last week, didn't it?
It came out like 4 days ago or something like that.
And I was like, oh, I was like scrolling and then I saw it. And I was like, oh, that's cool. That's neat. It was on my home screen, Zach. It got recommended to me. I didn't even see it in the subscriptions. And I was going through. I saw it. By the way, Bo Burnham, if you don't know, you should know. But we talked about it before. He had a special called Inside, where he trapped himself inside his little like an outside home, like a second home type thing.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And it's a great special. I recommend you go watch it. And this is kind of like his outtakes, like behind the scenes, I suppose, shots that didn't make it. It's basically literally just a second movie.
Yeah.
Like it's literally the inside and then an alternate version of Inside. Yeah. Because Inside is a bunch of scattered things anyways. And then this is just also the same exact thing. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? I haven't finished it. But this was late at night when I found it. And I was like, oh shit. And I watched like half of it and then I got really tired and I passed out.
So I have watched the entire thing and it's very fascinating. And honestly, I would love to dedicate an entire episode to just this in and of itself.
Sure.
If that's a rabbit hole that you want to go down.
No, I'm down. I mean, there could be something massively spoiler that I haven't seen yet necessarily, but considering what it is, I'm sure it's probably fine.
Yeah.
Unless there's like a big thing I'm going to miss.
I don't think so. So we can just kind of cover some of the stuff that you've already seen, basically like alternate versions of the same song.
The last thing I remember is The Dump.
The Dump?
Which was like an interview thing, and then there was like 9 of them in a box.
Oh, yeah.
That was the last thing I remember.
Yeah, okay. The Dump. I forgot that was even a thing.
It's so weird to say this out of context. Like, if you don't know, then this probably sounds super fucking stupid. But it's like, that's how chaotic this special was. And even more so, there's outtakes. Because it's just so many back-to-back... Because he's a comedian, right?
Right.
And you know, he became a director and all that. And he kind of made this another Netflix special. Or essentially, he did another show, except this time it wasn't live. Yeah. It was all recorded. So he had this flexibility of doing all these crazy things. And you can see, I'm pretty sure he uploaded some of them on his YouTube channel from Inside. So you should check them out. And then, got the burps. Watch them on Netflix. I would say you can probably watch it before the other specials. Maybe, I would say maybe.
Yeah.
I don't think you need too much prior context. Just know that it's very profound. So one thing that I will say, just as like a content warning, when it comes to that special in particular, and I mean, anyone who has seen anything by Bo Burnham knows that he has a very raunchy, raw sense of humor about most things. And so he kind of personified a lot of really dark ideas, like, you know, mental health struggles and everything like that. And, you know, he
talked about some relatively dark things, and also he talked about Jeff Bezos, but that's something else.
He talked about some dark things and really hard topics. Jeff Bezos, suicide. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah. So
depression, death, Jeff Bezos, suicide. Like those things.
Yeah. So if that makes you a little bit uncomfortable, then I would say that that's not really your cup of tea. But he does do an amazing job of,
I think personifying isn't the right word, but more so putting it in a different light for which you can kind of experience the idea differently, I suppose.
Yeah.
And not necessarily, well, this as well, laugh at it, but also look at it differently.
Right.
I suppose. So that's what he's done for me. And that's like, even I think the opening shot, I can't remember if it was the opening shot, because like, again, I was super fucking tired. But it was, it wasn't the opening shot. It was one of the songs, and it was like really up close to his face, and it was green.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that one, whatever that one was. I think that one's on YouTube, actually. I think the whole song is on YouTube. But you want to look it up, you want to find it. That was really cool. And yeah, he just kind of says a bunch of things, and it's like, whew, it's like you listen to it, and it's just those things where he says something, and it catches you off guard, and you're like, whew, that's the kind of thing that let's see, 5 years was pretty funny too. But it wasn't that. Maybe, it's the thing that's playing on the thumbnail right now. It was that, which I would assume was the opening
Whoa,
shot.
look at his banner.
Yeah, it is the banner too.
What was that song called?
I think it was The Feeling. Well, let me see. I swear to God, it was the opening shot. I swear. Oh, well, not quite. Oh, here we go. The Future. Yeah. This shit was fucking gnarly. He says a lot of things, and it makes you just kind of have a reaction to it, I suppose. Mm-hmm. Even if you're by yourself, you kind of have a reaction to it, because it's so out of the blue, and he's so good at making you, even if you know him very well, you still don't really expect when he throws the punch, He throws a sucker punch, and you're like, what the hell? And you can either perceive it as good or bad.
Right.
It's kind of up to you. But that's your decision to just, to put yourself in whatever stance. I would assume, I personally think that he does have a direction in his type of, in what he says, but in a way you can still consider him to be a neutral ground of which you decide to put yourself in one side or the other. For me, I just look at it and I think it's funny. Some people, they might not think it's funny. Suppose that's up to you, right? It's all good. But he even talks about it in this special, and in the special as well as the outtakes of like this whole PC culture thing, right? This whole like comedians, we can't fucking say anything anymore because everybody gets offended by everything, even if they're joking. Nobody knows if they're joking or not anymore. That's kind of what's kind of happened. Right. And it is very well interesting, but it's weird because I agree. I think I mentioned before in the previous special, or when we talked about Burnham Inside for a whole episode, that when you watch his older specials, you get put into the, wow, this really was the comedy of 2014, wasn't it? You know what I mean? You're like, God damn. And there are just like words that you can't say anymore, And yes, justifiably so. Yes, they are like really bad words, right? Mm-hmm. But it was weird because that's just kind of what happened. It's just kind of not for any derogatory reasons. You just don't say it anymore.
Right.
Or sorry. Well, yeah, you don't say it anymore, but we just said it and we didn't mean very much of it. Mm-hmm. And yes, that's bad, but it really didn't. It was just kind of the comedy thing, because when you throw it into comedy, it's like comedy is what you use to kind of break the line between, funny and derogative, because it's just, who the fuck cares? It's funny. It's in the moment. You're pointing light at it. And even if it's bad, obviously, not going to throw a extreme racial slur or something like that, but you say you say a word or something, and you reference an event or something, and it's something that isn't very happy,
Right.
But you put it into a context where you can laugh about it because it's been, so long. There's no point in really having to focus so much on it being such a negative thing, because we're at the point where we need to move on and continue growing as human beings, because like we said in the previous episode, bad things happen. You shouldn't forget about it. You shouldn't say it didn't exist. It existed. It happened. We're going to we're going to continue on, but you can't forget that it happened. Hey, remember this bad thing? I'm going to say it.
Right.
Bo Burnham's going to say it. You can't forget that it happened. Right?
Right.
You're going to laugh about it because it's funny, because I put it in a funny joke. It got you, bitch. But we're going to not forget that it happened.
Right. Yeah, and that's one of the things that I've found, especially with Bo Burnham's early stuff, is that he did such a fantastic job of bringing up really weird events that were going on, or for example, from Make Happy, his country song, he's talking about how, I'm going to sing about my tractor, and I wrote this song in my private jet, with my $10,000 cowboy boots that have never touched dirt, like all of this stuff. It's poking fun, but it's also like it's bringing attention to things in a way that you wouldn't necessarily be able to do otherwise. It's like, oh, that was really funny. So you can kind of look at it from the surface level of that was a really funny song, or you can look at it from the perspective of, wow, that was a really funny song, but there was a little bit of truth to the stuff that he was saying during that song. And that's something that Bo Burnham does really well. And I paused the special, or the outtakes, in one specific part because I just thought that this shot was really cool.
Oh yeah.
Like his eye for cinematography is just absolutely fantastic,
Yeah, and we said in that episode, I probably should throw a bunch of eye cards in the corner up here, just repeatedly linking back to that episode, because we went on for a very long time about it. But he shot this by himself,
right?
And with a an expensive camera, but a camera you can just buy off the shelf, and a lens you can just buy off the shelf,
right? And
it looks beautiful. And he edited this all in Final Cut Pro on his MacBook, and recorded most of these things on a Shure SM58 or something, whatever. That's what it looked like. And it's just like, what, and he's just in a one room house thing,
right?
Strategically saying that you can do it too. Anybody can make this. Maybe you don't have quite exactly the same exact camera or lens that I do, and if you do, I hope you're pretty well established to do so, but maybe you don't have something quite like that. Maybe you're shooting on an M200 like this with a 50 millimeter lens and a speed booster, and you say, well, fuck it. Or maybe you slap a Sigma on it like I bought, and you say, let's make a movie.
Right.
You can do something. You can very well make something like this, and he uses things such as not just an expensive camera. He uses lighting, composition, and framing. That shot, I don't know if it's gonna be really hard to find because there's a lot. Because it's an outtake, there's a lot of little bits. The one where he's laying on the ground and he's on his pillow.
Oh,
and there's a bunch of things happening. It's one of the greatest. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to find it. Or even something like this. The framing is just, I'm not showing it, sorry. The framing of it is perfect. The lighting of it, the way it captures himself, and draws all the attention into a certain focal point is a very strong. I mean, he's a director. He knows what he's doing. He's been doing this for forever. I don't know if I'm going to fucking find it, but maybe if I just keep scrolling, I'll probably find it at some point. Maybe. Oh, right here. Hey, look at this shot. The shot is so fucking crazy because it's an absolute. This is any sort of editor, any cameraman's this is a compositional nightmare.
Oh yeah.
There's so many things happening that you would never want a shot like this. But it's framed so well somehow where everything leads to Bo still being the focal point.
Right.
the lines on the stools and the tables that bring you from the background, or from the left and the right side more towards the center. The light from that kind of not necessarily a sound bar. I don't know what this is right here, but it brings you, it pushes you this way, and then this highlight right here of this monitor for his webcam, his camera, keeps you right here, and then this wire brings you to the microphone, and that points to Bo.
Right.
And this pillow is bright white as well, while the rest of the surrounding is dark. This is a great shot. This is one of my favorite shots of all time. It's beautiful, and it's so messy.
Right. It's one of those things that you would never think to do something like this, because
if I was a filmmaker, I would never make a shot like this, Zach.
Right.
Ever. Because it's a nightmare.
Right. But he was able to take this really, I guess, subjectively horrible scenario and turn it into something that almost symbolizes how chaotic his life has been lately. You know, like he was able to take this. Oh, also the ads are freaking hilarious.
The ads are pretty funny.
He took something that could have potentially been really distracting and really chaotic in nature, and he turned it into what this is. And what this is a beautiful shot, you know, like, and this one too, like all of the shots in this, in the outtakes and in the special itself, are just absolutely beautiful in their own way. And the way that he used light to just really toy with your perception of things was really, really special. You
forget that these are different. These are all such different shots, but this is the same exact one room that he's been shooting in every single time. Not different angles, perhaps, but he's created so many different scenes. Maybe I passed it, but one where, how do I say? So look at this scene right here, right?
Yeah.
You get so familiar with this room after going through this special for like 30 minutes. And then as he changes the lighting into different scenarios, it's like this looks like a different set, almost, just because it's the exact same set, but it's so plain. There's nothing on the walls. It's just the room and the paint, the default paint, and there's an air conditioner, I guess, and a window here and there. But because of the lighting that he chooses, it creates just a completely different. It's literally a different scene.
Right.
It's from one color to the next color. It may as well be a different scene. This may as well be just a different different location, because that's how much your mind perceives it to be just a different spot. It doesn't necessarily need to be a different, like physically different location.
Right.
Because we've seen in the past where people are like, you know, they create sets and the sets rotate. And when you think about it like that, the location doesn't change, just the surroundings change.
Right. And I think that this shot, or like this sequence of shots, is a really, really good example as well, because, you know, over the course of just one song, he had so many different sets. Like, you know, now he's painting. Now it looks like he's in an entirely different room. And even with the context of,
this is the same exact shot. He's just stood up now.
Yeah, exactly. And so he has, even with the context of this is all in the same room, right? You know, you still look at it and you're like, oh wow, that looks like an entirely different room, or like an entirely different building. It's just so bizarre. And also I feel like we're gonna end up getting copyrighted for this, so we need to be a little bit
should
careful.
Probably stop. Yeah, probably not the full screen. We'll stop now. Okay, but what the point I'm trying to make is, at least for this, is that I've talked about this whole film's what did I call it, cinematic psychology before. The idea that you have leverage on the audience, because your duty is to pull the audience in and forget about what's happening in your surroundings. And when you do that, you get so you can do something like this, where you're so used to this background that background becomes just this white noise. And all that needs to happen is that the color just needs to change. The darkness needs to change. The shadows, they need to change. Right. And when the shadows change and different light points emit differently, that's enough to in your mind to say, this is different. This is a different scenario. Right. Because as we're talking about it now, and we're going, scene by scene, yeah, obviously, yeah, this you can tell it's the same room. When you're in the moment and you're watching this on your phone, on a TV or whatever, wherever you're watching it, you forget about that. Mm-hmm. VFX, Zach, I've mentioned before, I've been binge watching Corridor VFX, right? Or Corridor Studio Domain Corridor Crew, something like that. Corridor. Yeah. Everybody knows Corridor, except for me somehow. Somehow I never watched them until just recently, so I've been binge watching them. And I'm not a VFX type of guy, but shame. I know. It's never ever. I never popped up in any sort of my recommendations. No one's ever told me about it, ever. Right. I've never seen it. Like maybe I've seen one, but it didn't hit me to click on it. So, but I mean, I clicked on it now because it's fantastic, and I watch it. Funny enough, I watched their stuntman reacts more because I find it a little bit more fascinating. But obviously, the VFX reacts and all those other their other videos are fascinating as well. But what they mostly taught me, not necessarily is VFX, but how to hide it, and when it can be faulty, but as you're watching the movie, it goes past. Like there's been even in Stuntmen's React, they talk about how these stuntmen are they just know how to fall. Like they have ways to fall down and stuff like that, right? Mm-hmm. Where it doesn't hurt them. And you look at that and you're like, oh, is this going to ruin the movie for me because I'm going to recognize them more? No, if it's a good movie, they're going to pull you in so good that you're not even going to notice it. You're not even going to worry about it. There's been some times where for example, their legs would break or something like that, right? I know in Ip Man, there was a scene. Do you know Ip Man?
No, I don't think so.
It's like how the fuck do I say it? It's like another Hong Kong Chinese type of fight movie thing-ish, with Donnie Yen. And there's a scene where he's fighting just a bunch of guys in gis, which are like the white kind of taekwondo, not taekwondo, but like that kind of get up, the belt.
The gi guys.
And they're fighting and he's going one on 20 or whatever. And there's a scene where he breaks one's fucking leg, stomps it onto the ground and bends it upwards. And then as you slow it down, you can literally see his other leg just folding backwards, like it's in the shot. Mm-hmm. And you use the fake leg to break it. It's when you go frame by frame, you literally see it for 10 frames. It's there. You see it. But in the fast-paced moment, you don't see it. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the nicest things about VFX. I used to care about, every frame needs to be perfect, especially when I was editing Call of Duty. And in a sense, I do agree with that still. But if you can find a way to blend things perfectly, where even if I can find a way to blend things where when there's motion blur happening, when there's fast things happening, when the camera focal point, the subject in focus is not even, it's over here and there's something a little bit off right here. Who the fuck cares?
Right.
If it's so well done and you keep previewing it over and over and over again, you don't see it. You show someone else and they don't see it. They don't see it. Your focus is not there. That's a big blur. That's a mess. The way that the hue, I'm looking at you right now, Zach, right? Mm-hmm. And this is all I see. Everything else in my peripheral around you is murdered out.
Right.
It's not if I'm looking at you, I can't read what's over there in those shelves at all. I can't even read the sign that's right here. This is literally from where I'm looking at, 1.5 inches from your face. Right. I can't read it because it's not in focus.
Right. And there have been so many examples of those little things that you kind of missed the first time through. Mm-hmm. And that could be, you know, a mic guy, like a boom arm mic guy, you know, you can see them for a split second in a reflection or something, you know, just like a bunch of itty bitty little details. But you know, at least I'm pretty sure I know that they saw that at some point and they were like, is this worth fixing for the 2 frames that you can see the camera? Like, is it actually worth going through and trying to like content aware fill all of that stuff?
Sometimes it is.
Sometimes it is, but also at the same time, sometimes it's not. And so just being able to understand the difference between stuff that's important to fix and stuff that is not going to be the end of the world if it ends up being seen. And there are a lot of examples of that all over the place. And I mean, I'm sure that there's examples in the special Inside and also in the outtakes that was a thing.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that he just probably didn't care that much. And he was like, in the grand scheme of things, it's not going to be the biggest deal in the world. And in this context, it's a little bit different because he shows all the lights, he shows all the mics, he shows all the cable management and everything like that, or the lack of cable management.
Yeah, he shows the chaos.
Yeah, he shows the chaos, and also he shows the product at the end of all of that. You know, like you can, there are a bunch of scenes in the special itself where, and we were just talking about this a little while ago, where there were like a bunch of lights and everything like that that were just kind of set up on tripods, and then he was the focal point of that shot. And you know, you're looking through all of these lights and everything to see this, to see the main focus of it. And so for him, it didn't really matter that much that there were certain scenes where there was like a cable running through or something small like that, because you know, he's one person trying to be filmer, editor, director, everything like that. And so that just kind of made it a hell of a lot easier on him. But
this is the shot I was looking for.
Oh,
one of the shots. Like, you literally, it's right there, you know?
Right.
The lights are right there. We have this, it's up there. I have the same light, Zach. No, it's right. Where did I put it? It's somewhere. I think it's like, no, it's somewhere. My little tiny, like 50. Well, his is a little bit better. But I'm pretty sure they're newer as well.
Probably,
like these newer kind of key light things that are really thin, and you just put a card in it to change the color. Or maybe this one is actually not a card. You can actually change the LED color, like fit, like actually. But it's like even in right here when he goes to a second frame right here, it's even more into the, like it's covering like his shoulder,
right,
and his left arm. But the way he presents himself, of course, you can't undermine his performance, of course.
Right,
his acting is superb, and I think in my opinion, acting will transcend any sort of bad composition. Well, maybe composition not the best one, but any sort of mistakes, any flaws, composition or acting will fix that, because you know their job is to sell it. Right. I mean, you see all the time where you know, actors. Oh God, so I have a really bad jaw problem right now. Actors, you know, if they go in a fight scene or something, and they're not necessarily fighters. I mean, they're doing their best, you know, but they're not fighters. It's a stuntman's job to sell those punches and those kicks, right? And they work in real time. I mean, sometimes they don't, but sometimes they do. And it's the actor's job and the stuntman's job, who are also performers, to really sell these things. Because if a punch doesn't connect, well, it better look like it connected.
Right. Because
when it's going super fast, 24 frames per second, and maybe it's undercranked, so it's sped up just a tiny bit. Nobody's gonna see that unless it's like this far away from your face and like, okay, what just happened, right? Unless it's like that, then they're gonna see it. But otherwise, you sell that shit and it's perfect. Bo Burnham, what he does is that he sells his performance really well. His body language, his facial expressions, the way he talks, the way he speaks, he's going to sell this idea that he's on a stage with purple lights on him.
Right. that's the important thing, I think, with this, is that he made it seem like he was on stage in front of a ton of people. Mm-hmm. And I think it was really funny and really cool that in the special itself, in the Inside special, sometimes he would use laugh tracks and those types of things just to kind of like further exemplify, like, you know, he was trying to make it as close to a theatrical performance as possible in the moments where he wanted it to seem that way. And then in other times he was just kind of like trying to be a little bit more intimate with the process and that kind of stuff, which is where I'm sure a lot of these outtakes came from. Because honestly, you can tell, and I know that we were talking a little bit earlier that you haven't watched the entire thing yet, but throughout the entirety of all of these outtakes, it almost seemed like he had like 2 or 3 different shows in his mind where all of these shots were leading. And so, you know, it ended up looking as though in the edit, that's when the story really started to unfold. Right. And that's why he ended up having so much on the chopping room floor, because he was able to get so much content and so much footage that he was able to get rid of an hour of it. You know, like he had so much footage and so much music
and full segments.
Yeah.
Like not even like this is behind the scenes, but and outtakes and, you know, mess ups or left the camera on or something like that. But they're also like full segments that he just axed from the final show.
Yeah. Full songs, full segments, full sequences that were just cut. And the attention to detail didn't end up wavering that much, I think, because you have the songs that he had made that he was intending on having in the show that didn't end up making the cut. He still put all of the detail into making sure that the shots, when he would change shots, he would like turn into it, and like all of the nitty gritty little details that he did in the actual final special. Like he put 100% effort into every single one of these, even if he wasn't sure if it was going to be in the final cut or not. And I think that is probably one of my favorite things about seeing all the outtakes, is that he had so many, not only so many different songs, but so many different cuts of the songs. Like I think the song 30, now I'm turning 30, that was originally in a different key. And so he ended up changing the key of the song just because. Right. But he still had all the footage of it in that first key. And he was messing with like content. The first song in the special, he was messing with the idea of the disco ball, right?
Yes.
And he had the light on his head. Yeah. And then he would turn on the light and the disco ball was spinning, and it was just kind of like throwing light everywhere. And when he initially came up with that idea, he recorded it all. And I'm sure that it's in here somewhere, but you know, there are so many different shots of him just playing with different ideas of the disco ball. It almost looked as though he was like, oh, this looks like a good idea, would shoot the entire thing, and then was like, let's try this, shoot the entire song. You know, like that. I can't imagine how much time he spent just filming different ideas that he had. And that is so cool.
There was one scene that's going to be a pain in the ass to find. So he did this take or something like that. I can't remember what song it was, but he did a take. And he was like, oh, that was pretty good. And then he zooms out, and then there's like he puts every single like 30 or 40 takes in the shot, all gridded. No, it's not this. I don't know if I'm finding it, and nobody cares for me to search for it while I'm recording a podcast. But it was like he had one shot, he had a take, and he was like, oh, that's a good take. And then he cuts to just multiple takes, all put on one screen, all playing out. And I'm like, God damn, you know, it's like you really see just how many how many times or how hard he was just working to make this look really good.
Mm-hmm.
And I just have I just have nothing more than just respect as someone who creates content as well.
Right.
And it's just really a good watch, especially if you make content yourself, if you enjoy the filmmaking process, perhaps, if you enjoy I would consider this amateur home filmmaking, honestly. Like he's a full-blown director, like that's his title, you know.
Mm-hmm.
He makes movies. And I would consider this a home film, and he made it spectacular.
Right.
I think anybody can do this, but that was the message from the last episode, so you know.
Yeah. And I think we were talking a lot about the technical application of a lot of the different shots in the special and everything like that. And I guess if there's one thing that I really want to push, because I know that when we talked about the special initially, it was kind of like, you know, we spent a lot of time talking about how everyone could do this, you know, and as much as we love repetition in the ideas that we talk about in the show,
right.
Honestly, I just really want to commend his attention to detail, because like you were saying a little bit ago, you know, he spent so much time playing with different ideas and then filming them. And I think that is probably one of the things that was the most important and the most beneficial in the long run. Because if he had a really cool idea, got everything set up, and was looking in the viewfinder and was like, I don't know, and then he just scrapped the idea before he filmed it, then he would never know exactly what it looked like. And so the idea that he would pick an idea for a shot, film it all the way through, and then try something different. And that's what ended up having the result of him having so much. And he was able to pick the shots that he liked the most because he had 30 of them. You know, for one song, he could have 20 different takes of different angles and everything like that. And you'll see it, especially near the end of the special or the end of the outtakes. He had so many different shots for all of these different songs and all of these different little segments that he had. Like, he had to shoot a podcast, The Dump, you know, right. He had to shoot 9 different shots, all of which were interacting with each other, all of which were coordinated. And then he decided, after he had filmed all of that, maybe it was when he was editing the whole thing down, he was like, I don't want this. And then he cut it. And, you know, if it was an idea that I was thinking wasn't going to end up making it into a giant project that I was in, I wouldn't have put so much effort into it. But he really, really just narrowed his focus and just full send. He just sent it. And that is super cool. And then we end up with stuff like this, where it's an entire different special that's just stuff that didn't end up making it.
Yeah. It's cool. There really isn't much to say. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to make this like literally a reiteration of the Bo Burnham episode, because that's what's happening right now. So just go watch it. If you have a Netflix, it's all good. Watch it, then go watch Erased afterwards. You know, let's have a time.
And then No Game, No Life. And maybe not Your Lie in April. Actually, no,
not that one. No, no, not yet.
I love how we would talk about the anime flowchart. It's just like 3 shows.
It is 3 shows.
It's literally 3 shows.
Well, I usually grab you by the first one, so you know sometimes No Game No Life isn't even needed.
Yeah, it's like Erased.
Oh, okay, cool.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, I'm here. I'm here. I am now in the picture. Good. Good.
And then, you know, in cases like me where I was just like 2 episodes in, I was like, this is fucking shit.
Hell
I
yeah.
love this.
I really want to read the novel for it, because everybody who is like super stickly about anime really don't like Erased. Just because...
Fucking what?
Well, because apparently, especially towards the ending, it's a bit rushed or something like that. Something along those lines. I don't know. But in my mind, because I know in Trash Taste, which before I continue, I watch every single episode. Y'all calm down. They don't like Erased. Like, they don't like at all. They hate it. And what's funny about influencers is that some people, they don't know what they like or dislike. They just know what their role models like or dislike, and then they dislike it too.
Right.
So there's that kind of faction. But I mean, the people I surround myself with, or at least my own friends, they love a race, so it's all good. We're chilling. But at this point, I'm like, well, if y'all are really like upset about it, I mean, maybe I'll give it a read and decide, yeah, if I read a full-blown novel of probably multiple volumes, I don't know if it's multiple volumes, I'm sure it'd be better, technically. Or I don't know, maybe it was a different ending or whatever. Who knows? I mean, I guess I'll find out if I ever read it, but I just, if you don't know very much, I think it's a great show to just open up on. So, fuck y'all, go make decisions for yourself.
Yeah. And I find when we talk a lot about like animes that we enjoyed or anything like that, I think that we at least attempt to do a thorough job when we're trying to decide where our opinion lies. And that's coming from someone who can watch an anime that might not have the best story, but if it's like beautifully animated, then I'll just like, Well,
we're a different part of the spectrum because I would still, even though you've been watching for like a goddamn year now.
Yeah.
I would still technically consider you to be a novice as far as like, how many you've watched, what's under your belt,
yeah.
Which means you're in the same boat I was when I was like in high school, late in middle school, where I'm like, I don't even fuck. I'm just going to watch anything.
Yeah.
If it's shit, I don't give a fuck because it's cool and it's new. And it's bad, but sometimes you gotta watch the bad to gauge your good, right? So I'll just watch it.
Yeah.
The premise is bad, the story is bad, the art's bad, the voice acting's bad. I don't fucking care. I'm gonna watch it anyways. This girl has big, huge tits. I don't give a fuck, Like,
got a beach scene. I'm down.
I'm down. I don't care. I'm just gonna watch it so I can understand and I can create a gauge for myself. That's where you're at right now. For me, I still don't care. There's some shows that I've dropped and there's some shows that I don't watch, but there's also, so I still watch just a range of things and I don't create a strong opinion on a show that I dislike. There's shows that I dislike, but I'm not going to be like, bro, that show was fucking garbage. That was actually the worst. If you like that show, then you're garbage because you're trash. Your taste is trash. Fuck you, right? No, I'm just like, well, the show was okay, I guess, and then that's it. I move on.
Yeah,
I had a time. I don't form a strong opinion on a show.
Right, and I think the furthest that I think both of us will go is, it wasn't really my cup of tea, but you do you, boo boo.
Right.
That's the extent of where I'll go with my opinions on different shows, regardless of if it's anime, whether it's, rom-coms, dramas, whatever. I've watched 15 seasons of Law and Order SVU. Is it my cup of tea? No. Is it because my parents watch it every single night? Yes. Why? I don't know, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I've ended up happenstancing my way into 15 seasons of a show that I still don't like.
You can't say that. Animes last for like 5 seasons max on a good series.
Or one. It's one season and it's only 20 episodes. So you could suck it up.
My favorite anime, Zach, is some pretentious shogi anime, which is Japanese chess, and I still watch Jujutsu Kaisen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I just kind of watch anime. That's just fun. It's just fun. It's media. It's cool and it's just different and it's just the whole vibe of it. And it's just fun, Zach. I'm just having fun. I enjoy the time I have and the culture and the things, whether they're good or bad. I enjoy the time that I have watching it. And if it's not that good, then I guess it wasn't that good. We'll move on. We'll move past.
It's really frustrating when you meet people who have a very, 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 very strong opinion on something like anime or whatever it may be. and they're just like, oh, that's stupid. I don't like that thing. And I'm just sitting here like, have you consumed said type of media in the past? And they're like, no, that's stupid. It's for children. And I'm like, no, it's not. I am a grown adult wearing Dragon Ball socks, okay? Literally, I am. I don't know.
You are.
Yeah, but the point still remains. If you've never seen it, how are you able to gauge how you feel about it effectively without it just being someone else's opinion pushed onto you?
Right. I have a buddy. He's an editor buddy named Jip. Shout out Jip or Gypsy. Shout out to my boy Jippy Dip.
Jippy Dippacy?
Yes. He we're talking like a little bit, and he doesn't really watch anime, but he was like, I gave it a good try. I'm like, okay, cool. What shows have you watched? Well, I've watched the entire first seasons of Sword Art Online, Hunter x Hunter, and then this and this and this and this and this. I'm like, oh, all right, fair enough. There you go.
They gave it a fair shot, Arthur.
He gave it more than a fair shot. I mean, he's like, first seasons of this show and this show and this show and this show and this and this. I'm like, God damn. Okay, you all right, fair. All right, cool, all good. But if you try it erased,
have you watched Bunny Girl Senpai?
Yeah, I didn't think so. You're gonna go back,
bro. No, if there's one show you gotta watch, it's Bunny Girl Senpai.
It's got to be Bunny Girl Senpai. Come on, it's quantum physics. Come on now.
Quantum entanglement.
Quantum emotional damage.
Schrodinger's donger.
Come on now.
Okay, I think a really good example is Jackson. Jackson, love you. He was very apprehensive to get into anime initially, just because, and he said this in the episode when he first kind of heard about anime and everything like that, he was like under the impression that it was just basically hentai, and we were like, no, Jackson, that's not how that works. And then we got him on the flowchart, and then now he has like a Demon Slayer AVI on Discord.
He's watching Sword Art Online by himself,
which I haven't even done yet. I need to watch it, but I just don't have time. That's
fine.
But
you finished just a Kaisen faster, Zach.
I know.
I'm playing.
I know, but still, like, it sucks because there are so many good shows that are out there. There's just not enough time in the day for me to be able to watch all of this.
Like, watching anime is hard now.
Yeah,
it's so hard. Like, I just want to read manga at this point. Like, I'm reading Demon Slayer right now. I think I mentioned it. I'm not sure. I mean, I've had volumes piled here because I've been borrowing volumes from my coworker. Oh my gosh, it's fun. I think I said it before, but yeah, the anime really fucking carries the manga so hard. I'm like, God damn. But it's fun to read. It's okay. And I can still feel a little heavy in the moments, But
yeah,
I'm just like, God damn, bro. I will say though, in the show, Zenitsu hate his fucking guts. I hate him. I can't. I think I was talking when Jackson was here. I think I was saying how I could never understand how he could be someone's top one. When there's like literally everybody else. And I'm reading the manga and he's way cooler. You know why, Zach? Because I don't hear his fucking voice.
That is so fair. And it's so funny that you say that because I'm sure that it's so true. It's just like, wow, your voice is so fucking annoying that I would rather not hear you talk ever.
But even then, what drew me to him was not even like those moments where I would hear his annoying voice anyway. It was his cool moments.
Yeah,
like when he was asleep or some shit, or when he was fighting the spider or whatever, right?
Yeah,
and that shit was like hard. I was like, okay, I didn't know you had this in you. In the anime, it was still pretty cool, but I still just had this. I couldn't take him seriously, but in the manga, for some reason, I can, and I found him way cooler. So now I can respect him. I can't call him my top one necessarily, but I've raised him higher in the charts now. And in fact, I've kind of flip-flopped him with Inosuke. Because in the anime, I actually do kind of like Inosuke. In the manga, not too much.
Yeah, I mean, when the three main characters are not in your top 5, it's like it becomes a little bit interesting. I will say though that the way that the anime portrays all of these characters, I would say, and I haven't read much of the manga. I think I've gotten a couple volumes in, but they do a good job, you know, like from what I've read. And obviously, you know, the first volume is like the first episode, and then, you know, it just kind of goes from there. But they did a really good job of giving us enough information about the main characters in the beginning to be able to sympathize with them, I guess. And that was a point that you and I have talked about previously, where, you know, if there are no stakes, then what's the point, you know? And I think, I don't want to piss people off, but that's kind of how I felt about One Punch Man. Just because One Punch.
That's the shirt I'm wearing, Zach. I'm wearing One Punch Man.
You know, there isn't a lot of stakes, and he just is kind of like a OP character. Right. But that doesn't mean that it's not a cool show.
It's fun to watch.
Yeah,
right?
it's fun to watch.
It's just like, yeah, and you're just eating your lunch, and you're like, yep, hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
My boys. Yep.
Yeah, but, you know, like I said before, that's not my cup of tea, and I'm going to move on with my life. And, you know, I'm sure that there are people out there listening or watching who are just like, how dare you? You haven't even watched the entire show. How dare you make a uneducated opinion about something that you just have not seen the entire thing? And I'm like, bro, I do not care enough. I don't know what that voice was.
The voice was the audience, Zach.
Yeah. I am the voice of the people.
I agree. It's hard because I'm a hypocrite. Because there are some shows where I'm like, you need to let it sit for it to grab you. I literally said that about Jujutsu Kaisen. Right?
Yes.
I put Jujutsu Kaisen in that same category as One Punch Man, but just a little bit different. I don't know. I put it in the same category, but they're not the same. They're built different. Because I still consider One Punch Man to just be popcorn watch, right?
Yeah.
Jujutsu Kaisen is not popcorn watch, but it's still in the same category as One Punch Man. But I don't know. For me, what the show was just a lot of kind of sitting and letting things. It's a lot of fast-paced things, but puzzle pieces get put together as things go, and then you finally hit that point in the show, and then you're like, okay, I'm in. And then you watch the movie, and you're like, hell fucking yeah. Because, look, like how I feel about Jujutsu Kaisen and the movie, I suppose, both of them in conjunction. Great word, Arthur. I feel it like I'm watching a sports game.
Yeah.
Sports ball game, right? I feel like I'm rooting for certain things. Like I'm watching, and I see Dame go for the 3-point. I'm like, let's, you know, the half court. I'm like, let's fucking go, Dame time, baby. You know, that was me when I was watching the movie. Right. Things kept happening, and I just wanted to keep standing up in my seat. You know, that's how fun it was. Fun to watch. That's all it was. Like it was. I mean, the story was okay. I would say, you know, it was decent enough for me to keep going. You know, it was enough for me to have some sort of direction while I can have fun watching the rest around it. And in my opinion, it was like watching Doctor Strange into the Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah.
It was like the story, the plot is here. They're here. You follow this. It'll go from here, point A to point B. Now, let me just throw a bunch of really fun shit at you. A bunch of cool shit, a bunch of cool cinematography and animation and all this, and you know, here you go, have a time. And I'm like, okay, I had a time.
Right.
That was my experience watching Jujutsu Kaisen movie.
And that goes into the idea of people enjoying things for different reasons. And you and I, it's very, very fascinating because you and I enjoy anime and the movies that we've seen for a very, very similar reason. And that's because from the perspective of someone who has created things that may not be to that scale, but we have created content. We have sat behind a camera and had to figure out how all this shit works. And you have had extensive experience on working on the editing, the VFX, everything like that behind these things. And so we can appreciate the animation style and the cinematography within the animation of anime. That's why we talk about Kyoto Annie so much, because their style of animation is so beautiful, and you and I have a mutual respect for that. And so when we go into a show like Jujutsu Kaisen and stuff like that, we go into it we go into it looking for a little bit different things. And so that kind of turns into us looking at the nitty-gritty details of things, and not necessarily like, we are not casual watchers of anything really anymore, which is a double-edged sword in the aspect of you and I enjoy the little things, but sometimes we become a little bit too hyper-focused about specific things. And that's why we can watch a show that has a horrible plot, but if it's animated beautifully, we'll still sit there and watch it because it's fucking beautiful. And so that's kind of a hard thing to remember sometimes, because people who have done like photography, cinematography, who have been editors for a period of time, people who have done a lot of the behind the scenes type stuff, they are no longer like a casual watcher,
right?
Because they are always going to see things that the general public might not see. And so when we talk about, especially with like Bo Burnham's specials that he's done in the past, and the outtakes that he released recently, it's hard to look at it from the perspective of just a regular Joe Schmo normal person who just found it on their YouTube recommended and decided that they wanted to watch it. Like it's a little bit difficult for us to be able to look at it from that perspective. Now, granted, we can. It just, we have to fight the urge to not just pause it and be like, God, that's such a pretty shot,
right.
Or like the way that they wrote this song was really cool, because I've wrote my own music before. And so like I'm listening to like chord voicings and everything like that. And you as a piano player can say the same thing. It's like, oh man, I love the way that he decided to use the chord voicings and what chords he decided to use in these songs.
Oh, bro, like
it's hard.
When I'm playing Genshin, Zach, Anuki has to bring up Genshin every single episode. I know,
of course.
The soundtrack is so fucking good, Zach. Like I'm this current area called the Chasm that I'm in right now, which is basically just this big cave, hence Chasm. And the OST for it is so fucking pretty, Zach, and the way they mold and mesh together, and how they oh my god, bro. It's like this like kind of a slower ambiance type of song, and then it reaches a big crescendo and all the strings come in and you're like, what the fuck is happening? I'm just exploring a cave. What is happening?
You're like, I'm just sitting here on my iPad and I didn't know that I would be crying over a soundtrack.
I'm just mining these ores. What is happening?
Bro, the new updates of Minecraft go hard. They added some really good shit. Like they added some amazing music into that game. And so we look at it from such a weird perspective, because it's just like, I'm just sitting here fucking mining iron ore in Minecraft, and I'm sitting here like, oh my god, dude, that was such a pretty line that they did of like, or whenever they have like French horns in a song, especially in like an orchestral where they just have like the blaring French horn line where it just like, it's just like, it's there, it's powerful, it's like, oh my god. And every single time I think about Demon Slayer, I think about the score, I think about the OST, I think about like all of the songs that they've used, and every single time I hear a song from an anime, I immediately think of the anime because of the music.
Yes.
And I heard it was the end credits to Bunny Girl Senpai in just a random video, and I was like, oh man, that show was so good.
Yeah. That's why I never skip the opening or ending, Zach, because it's so important to listen. Everyone's like, oh yeah, I fuck with the opening for Buddy Go Senpai, and bitch, you skip that shit every single time.
Right.
How in the world, like when I hear the opening for Buddy Go Senpai, Kimi no se with us. Ooh, you know, immediately 13 episodes flash back into my brain. I'm like, and then I start crying. I break down, Zach. I'm in Fred Meyer's. I'm at the cash register and I start dying.
Why were they playing that song on Fred Meyer?
The cashier was wearing a Bunny Girl senpai shirt, and then all of a sudden I started crying. She's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "No."
I just rewatched the movie.
and then the cashier started crying too. I know. and then the mom behind me is like, "What the fuck is happening?
Who are these people?" You see a guy in
kids don't look.
You see a guy in a bunny suit and you just start crying. You know,
I'm just like ass out and everything, like goddamn.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
But that's what would happen when I hear like the OST or something, or the ED, of course, you know, or even like I was literally playing the OST last night. The bun da dun da, bun da dun da. It's like the simplest thing, but these simple things are what kind of remind you of everything, or of what kind of remind you of how we hearing things. I mean, you can recognize someone by their voice for the same reason that you can recognize a production by its score.
Mm-hmm.
I think when you look, Zach, these openings and EDs, they're not in our language.
Right.
So how can I recognize an anime by it? Well, it's because it sounds like it. The sounds remind me of it.
Right.
And that's what music does. The whatever, whether you care to remember it or not, Zach, whether you care to learn about the music theories or not, Zach, you know that when Bruno Mars hits that fucking key change, you go, you know, and you're like, yes.
Yeah. Or you hear a song from like late 90s, early 2000s, and then you get like Vietnam flashbacks of your childhood.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is, because you know, as corny as this sounds, the music that I've listened to over the course of my life has basically been almost like the score of my life, you know, because the music that I've listened to, not only has it had like an impact on me in the way that I've like perceived music, but also, you know, that music. So for example, like early 2000s Eminem, that reminds me of like my early childhood, why I was listening to Eminem when I was like 8 years old. It's fine, you know, like, and then we go into like the late 2000s, and you know, I think about like Bruno Mars and like all of that kind of stuff. Like there are just like, it's almost like a time capsule of different times in my life, and that's kind of what it does. And then every time I hear an opening that's like an absolute banger, every single episode of Origaru that we watched, I was like, oh dude, this opening's a banger. And then I would sit there and like I would sit there and dance in my chair, and I wish that you would be able to see it, because it was the funniest fucking thing. It was I would hear like the very beginning of the opening, and then I would unmute myself on Discord, and I'd be like, still a bop though, and then I would just be like dancing in my chair, because it really is one of the coolest things about having listened to music for so long, and also having like had music be such a big part of my life for so long, you know. And as a musician, I'm sure that you feel the same way. Of course. Know, you hear this song and it becomes an earworm. It gets stuck in your head, and I hate it, because at work we listen to music from like 70s, 80s, and 90s. And then I just think back to when I first listened to that song, or when Jackson freaking got Rush stuck in my head for 2 years, because that's all we would listen to. And, you know, the 70s playlist that I have on my Spotify that I would play whenever he and I were in the car together, you know, it's just like, I can listen to a song and think of like a specific time in my life. I don't know how this became a music rant, but
we gotta have it every now and then.
Yeah.
Zach. You gotta do it. I will orgasm every time whenever I talk about the Nier OST, Nier Automata, Nier, all those Nier Replicant I needed to do. I've been thinking about restarting it. I'm not sure if I want to do it on stream or not because I just want to fucking kill through it. Because when I first started Nier Automata, this was like 19, I think 18, 19. I want to say, no, 20, because I started it during the COVID. I know this because I would play it during Zoom calls because I could not be fucking asked, right?
Oh, this was when you were still in classes, right?
Yes. And I'm like, I don't want to fucking do this. I'm going to play fucking Nier on my second monitor. So I did that. And I only played 3 endings of the first, not the first game, of one game.
Mm-hmm.
But the music is just so fucking instilled into my brain. Every time I hear it, I start like breaking down. Like I was joking. Well, I was not really joking, but I was semi-joking when I was talking about the Bunny Girl Senpai and stuff. When I hear the Nier OST, any of it, just come on. I have to like take a moment and go. You hear that broken exhale? Because that's how I felt about the game. That's how I felt about a lot of the things. That's how I feel about that content, because I was just like, it put me through so much emotional stress and emotional just everything that I just had to think about everything. And I'm just like, fuck me, dude. And I really want to just sit down and crank through learn every single one of the OSTs on the piano and just have that under my belt to just play the suite every single time, because I it's just so pretty. And even if you haven't played it, you can listen to it and be like, God, I can just imagine listening to this as I'm playing this early, like 2013 or whatever, open world RPG experience. Like, what the fuck is going on? I feel like I'm here. I'm here right now. This is me. I am in this world. I am in this dystopian world of things and androids and all these types and robots that are aliens or whatever the fuck.
You're like, here I be.
Here I be. I am here. And I am sad because everything is just sad. And I'm like, fuck me, but it's those type of things where you can kind of be really picky about it. But at the same time, if you can be really picky about it, but still be so immersed into the content, whether it be a video game, whether it be a movie, whether it be a Netflix special or whatever, it doesn't really matter whether you can nitpick at any sort of element. If they do a good job, you're not going to worry about it, because you're going to forget that you were even a filmmaker, that you're even a photographer, that you're even a musician, that you were even that you were even a VFX artist. You're going to forget that. I am now the audience, and I am here witnessing great story, and that's all there is to it.
Yeah, and we talk a lot about storytelling and everything like that, and music does so much when it comes to storytelling that could be an episode in and of itself, really, because you're able to.
We have one called storytelling.
Well, music's contribution to storytelling. Like we could really break it down, but to have I guess like a auditory representation of the feelings that are being portrayed during this show, during this movie, during this game, whatever it may be, that kind of idea is so cool. And that's why I love music so much, and that's why I love listening to OSTs, to EDs, to soundtracks. It you start to feel the emotions again. You start to kind of see it again in your mind. And it's just super fucking cool. It is so cool.
It's so cool. No, it's so cool. There is I'm gonna gush about Genshin again really quick. I'll be brief though. One of my favorite OST scores, I suppose, arrangements that happens in the story. these names are not going to make any sense to you, but don't worry, is during Shenhe's final cutscene in one of the Arkan mission things. And basically, for a quick synopsis, I guess a spoiler, but I mean, it's whatever. It's all good. You can watch it. It's on the Genshin channel. You can watch it. Make sure you do it on the Japanese channel, though. Otherwise, you're going to get some weird talking. But basically what happens is she kind of rescues you, the main character, from a really hard hit and sees how hard you're trying. Like, there's this big monster thing happening, and it's wreaking havoc in the city. And there's this girl who you've kind of... she's super mysterious. And she doesn't really understand who she is or whatever, and doesn't understand really emotions. She's kind of like that robotic character. And she's seeing you hurt and the whole town getting or the whole town about to get wiped out and stuff. And then she has this really, really triumphant moment of like it starts really slow as it's happening and she's realizing what's happening. And then, the horns come in and the strings come in and it's like, and you start to feel this triumphant shift in her emotion, of which it wasn't able to really portray it throughout this entire time you're with her. And you can feel that kind of heart start to gather more impact and more blood and more heat. And you're like, and then that's a moment where you want to stand up in your chair because you feel what's about to happen. That's what music does. Because I mean, sure, it can happen without it, I suppose, but when the orchestra comes in and it starts to dance with the scene, it starts to paint this magical just painting with so much rich with texture and flavor and all these senses that are going off in your brain, and you're like, this is storytelling.
You're like, holy shit.
What is happening? I'm watching a movie.
This is a game.
This is a video game. And it's free.
It's free. That's one of the big things too, is that
with microtransactions, of course, because 2022, but
is anything really free anymore? But the point still remains, like the contribution that music has to storytelling is really, really understated, I think. Because even in this episode, we've talked about basically everything but the music in the outtakes of Bo Burnham's Inside. And I think a part of the reason why we did that is because we didn't want to spoil it.
I think we didn't talk about the music specifically because it was kind of about the music. So we did the flip-flop.
Yeah.
So we talked about everything surrounding the music. So now we talk about cinema and movies and regular and games and stuff, and then that's the meat, and then we talk about what surrounds it, which is the music. So we just did the Uno reverse card of what Bo Burnham Inside was. So that's kind of what happened with that. But I kind of wrap it up, I suppose. It's just, if you want a really good example, I would say Violet Evergarden, right?
Oh my god!
I think Violet Evergarden is probably the best direct example of a range, like a big range of different type of OST structures, and how it's a very pretty aesthetically a very aesthetically pretty show. There we go. I mixed the endings there. The music just adds onto it because it can be really big, but can also narrow you down.
Right.
So it's just like, it's a great way to have all your sensors just fly off the charts as you're watching just a really stunning show.
Yeah. Yeah. And you kind of instilled the idea to me to listen to the OSTs, to listen to the music in the shows that I've watched.
Yeah, not just the openings or endings or anything. Like literally the actual arrangements, like the score of the shows, And
yeah, and what that has done for me is it's just grown my appreciation for it in general. And so I would highly recommend you listen to the OSTs and everything like that to shows. Oh wow!
Well, the reason why I want to show this is simply because look how much there is. Like, you probably didn't even think about how much there was.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it was really just
Oh, sorry.
Oh, it's okay. It was really just there's 2 discs, Zach. And I actually thought about they sold it recently again, I think, on their website. And I was thinking about buying it, but I couldn't be asked to navigate that damn site. But
Bro, I just imagine if they had a vinyl record, I'd buy it.
I would buy a vinyl record. Oh my god, of Violet Evergarden. That would be. I might still buy it. I might go back and just buy the discs. Fuck it. But there's so much. Look, how much is that? 26, I believe, because 25 to 26.
Yep.
You probably didn't even think there was that much while you're watching it.
No.
And sure, some of them are a lot shorter than others.
Mm-hmm.
But this many types of different songs and variations was what was able to bring so many different flavors to the show.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to find a lot of this in other shows. Like you're gonna see Jujutsu Kaisen. They also have like a big fucking range of OSTs, or even your random Joe Schmo slice of life or your rom-com. They're also gonna have a fat list of OST because they understand that it's going to create. Oh, this one. There you go. Okay, sorry, my bad. I was hitting the wrong key because I have different. Nobody cares because they
what?
Because they understand that music has a lot of weight. It has a lot of weight in what it needs to do. And not only does it have a lot of weight, it is not the underlying thing. It just plays a part in the bigger picture, basically. And that's all really. So, anyways, that's all really. Go watch Violet Evergarden if you want a good example of that. I would recommend you probably go to the flowchart first, but if you just want to fucking go gung-ho, well, why not? Who knows? I'm sure Violet Evergarden was a lot of people's first animes anyways, as we explained before. So that's cool. And then if you want to kind of see what we're talking about with Burnham, go watch Inside. And then after that, you can decide if that was not edgy enough, then you can probably watch his previous shows and then really feel the heat.
Yeah.
But
we got some links down below if you want to go check those out. If you guys want to keep listening to us banter, we have a bunch of episodes down below. Subscribe if you're new. Let us know if you want to hear us talk about anything in particular, because we just like listening to ourselves talk. And yeah, be good people. I love your face, and I will see you guys in the next episode.
Later,
Gator.